Hi, everybody. So glad that you're with us. I'm Mike Gonzalez alongside Bernadette Pillar for our very first edition of Bernadette Pillar Real Estate Podcast. Bernadette, so excited to be with you. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited to be here, Mike. I've been waiting for this day yes, I'm just so delighted to have you in my family and my team.
Yeah, we've got a great team, that's for sure. So, all right, let's get right into it. Inventory. That has really been the most talked about thing in this past few years. First of all, why is inventory so low right now and there's such a demand for housing?
Well, there are several reasons why inventory is so low. People talk about the millennials. We've got our different generations, but the millennials waited so long to buy. That's a big reason for inventory being low. But low interest rates are a reason for low inventory. Sellers are holding on to their homes longer because they bought low and they're waiting for their prices to rise and for them to level off. So, for their investment to ripen, if you will. That's another reason for inventory being low. Let me think. We have low interest rates. We have more homeowners holding on. Does COVID have anything to do with low inventory? That is a question I get all the time. We were experiencing low inventory before COVID. Okay.
Right.
Has COVID contributed to that? Well, of course it has, in the sense that building has been stifled. We see increased prices for wood and all of that. The different states had put barriers on building and construction. So of course it did contribute, but I would be inexperienced and negligent to say that COVID is the reason, because it really has a little bit to do with it. We already were experiencing low inventory.
Yeah, so with that being said, gosh, houses are going 2 days, they are gone. And we talked about this a little bit the other day, just offline, how important it is to have a real estate agent, because we've experienced this, friends, clients calling on their own before they reach out to us and saying, gosh, I'm calling around and boy, it's gone before I even get to the table. So let's talk about that a little bit and why your services are so really important is in a market like this.
Okay, but I'm going to say our services, Mike, because you're now a licensed realtor.
I gotta remember that I'm part of the team now.
Yes. So our services are very important, and I don't want to sound like a salesperson here, okay? But it's just like I tell, I've been 16 years in the business, licensed in Washington State and in Hawaii, by the way, a little plug there. And we're soon to be in Idaho. But this is not a sales pitch. It's like, people having their own doctor, their own dentist, their own attorney, their own financial advisor. It really just makes sense to have your own realtor. You need to have a knowledgeable realtor in your pocket to help. Properties are, if they're positioned correctly, priced correctly, they are flying off the market. And so consumers are getting frustrated when they're gone. They'll be on the market 1 day and 2 days later in their mind, they're gone, sometimes even faster than that. Your third-party websites, Trulia, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Zillow, they're usually 24 hours behind with updates. And sometimes realtors are not able to update the status on the MLS, which feeds to them as fast because of we're so busy right now. So having your own realtor to where you can be set up on a sophisticated search engine and getting notified of properties within 10 minutes of them coming on the market. I'm not going to give away all my secrets, but I have a communication and plan strategy with my buyers that when, and as you do, working with us, that when a client gets notified of a property within 10 minutes of it coming on the market, they're communicating with us right away. We can get in touch with the listing agent and let that listing agent know that we have a strong qualified buyer, and to please, please work with us or wait for us. And even if we can't get the buyer in right away. Okay. So, but it's not just that. It's shopping for the home, opening a door and letting a buyer in the home is only a small percentage of what our duties are. Being experienced in our market is even more key than in a buyer's market or a balanced market, because you need to be working with realtors who know how to work in a multiple offer situation, what strategies you can put into place to win that home, So our services are just invaluable. I mean,
all those
I feel it's
nuances.
very necessary.
Yeah, everything that you bring to the table is so important, and that our team.
So really quick, whether it's you or me or anyone on our team, I would say the same thing. It's a sales call maybe to some, but whether it's us, we're applying for the job, by the way, but whether it's us or not, you need to hire your own realtor.
Yes, so important. That's what I let everybody know. And of course, I'm pitching our team. Let's talk about home prices in the sense of starter home versus, maybe a higher end home. Let's say I'm in the market for a $500,000 home. Is that inventory moving just as quickly as, say, a $250,000 home? Let's start with a little bit higher level.
So the higher level properties are going fast as well. If they're positioned correctly, we are seeing a lack of inventory in all price ranges. But it goes without saying that the beginning level homes, which we are at a much higher start than we used to be. But those are going like yesterday. Okay, the properties priced above 250, 300,000. If positioned correctly, those two are seeing multiple offer situations, and they are going fast. I don't want to dwell on any other markets. This is mainly for the Washington market, but I do want to mention really quick, like that, as I mentioned, I'm a realtor in Hawaii as well. I just closed on several properties. One, we were competing at 1.2 million. One at 650,000, another one at 700,000. So it's happening in Hawaii as well. My sister lives in New York. I'm from New York originally, Mike, and my sister and brother-in-law sold their home last year thinking that they would build. They turned around and bought a piece of land, and they were living in a condo. Their term ran out. Mom says to them, well, just come stay with me till that, until because they decided they didn't want to build with COVID. That did change their plans, and so they decided, okay, we'll sell that land now, and we'll just buy a resale. So Mom says, well, just move in with me, just for a normal escrow is 30, 45 days. Just move in with me, and when you can buy your house and move out. It's been a year later. They cannot find a house to save their life. They are now, however, building again. They had to go back to the building idea. They bought another piece of land and they're building. Their house won't be done till early spring. We won't talk about the family dynamics.
That's what was going through my head. Boy, I hope they're all getting along. That's
they do. They love each other, but it is not without it.
Yeah,
I just got to, as you know, I just got to go home and visit, and I could tell that they are ready. They are ready. Good thing my sister.
Spread out,
she has the upstairs, but they're ready. So the reason I mentioned those scenarios, Mike, is because it's a national thing. It's across the nation that we're seeing this, and so if properties are positioned correctly, and that is the key thing, they are also selling quickly. Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to touch on is. We get a lot of young folks that come to our agency and they starter homes. And I've heard that argument that a starter home doesn't exist anymore. Are there starter homes? And my question within this question, Bernadette, is if I'm a young person and I'm looking for my first home, what is the best way to go about it?
Well, again, it goes to your first home. You really, in this market, being a first-time home buyer without at least your closing costs and your small down payment is going to be tough. Let's be upfront about it. Yeah. I don't want. I'm a teacher for the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. I have enjoyed teaching classes since about 2016. That's an excuse me, 2006. That's an approximation. So for a long time, and we're talking about 15 years now.
Right.
And I am a very big supporter of VA loans and your Washington State Housing Finance Commission first time home buyer program. But we need to be upfront with our consumers that unless you have a good down payment, a decent down payment, and it doesn't have to be 20% down, but you want at least 3 to 5%,
Right.
and have your closing costs, which depending on the price of the home, can range from $6,000 to $8,000, right? Dollars. If you don't have that money, it's gonna be hard. We need to talk the real truth. It's gonna be really hard to get into a home right now because you're competing with others. And when a seller has multiple offers to choose from, and you're comparing against, a buyer who is, zero down, and to a seller doesn't look like they're vested, compared to that buyer who has, 3% to anywhere from 3% to 20% down, the seller has their choices, and they can choose an offer, even if it's for $1 if they want, as long as there's no discrimination involved, right? So, anyway, to answer your question as how to become a first-time home buyer, you need to probably set yourself up a little bit stronger than you would in a more balanced or buyer's market. You need to be able to function from a little bit better position of strength. So if you can save or get gift money to help you with that down payment and your closing costs, that is going to get you a lot farther with getting your offer accepted right now.
Yeah, some really great advice. Those days of, gosh, I remember my first home when the seller actually paid the closing costs. Those days, they seem long gone.
We're I don't want to discourage our consumers, our buyers, because home ownership is so important. That, I know that, and we want everyone to own a home, but we don't want to set them up for frustration and failure either. And so to say never, that it's not going to happen or never, is not fair either. But realistically, they really should, a buyer should realistically have their down payment. Their closing costs. Closing costs, by the way, include their appraisal, their prepaids like taxes and insurance, their lender, costs, they're called closing costs, because they encompass all of that.
Right.
So, if they have their closing costs at least and a slight down payment, they're functioning from a better position. To ask a seller to pay closing costs, that's a whole nother podcast, by the way. We'll talk about that, because the seller never pays closing costs in my mind, because the buyer, you increase the price, right?
Right, exactly.
But it still is, the buyer looks at it, even if you increase the price, it is still, the property has to appraise for that amount.
Right, exactly.
Still, yeah. So we won't get off on that tangent. Again, that's another podcast. But to see a seller paying to pay buyer closing costs these days is a little bit more challenging.
Right.
Just like even inspection, asking seller to deal with inspection items is a challenge these days. So.
And that's something I'm seeing too, and hearing from friends in the industry is they've got their buyer that's looking for properties, and they're going way above list price. They're going without inspections, and a lot of people are rolling the dice and buying properties that maybe haven't been inspected, or in some cases I've heard people are actually buying properties that they've only seen pictures. What advice do you give to people really on both ends of the spectrum? They might be a buyer, there might be a seller. It's really such a complex question.
Well, for a seller, it's a really good thing when an inspection is waived. That goes without saying, but it's a really good thing. I am on both ends of it, and let me tell you, it's not fun. For
right,
instance, I always like to give examples. It kind of helps for people to see examples. So without giving any names, we just closed on buyer transaction this last week. The property was listed at about 299. Our buyers had lost out on several properties, and they were just determined that they wanted this particular property.
right.
They were done losing out. They wanted it. They could already see people as they were looking at it. They could see other people in line waiting to see it. So they offered 360,000 from 299 to
Wow,
360. They said to me, Bernadette, we want this property. Get this property for us. Well, it's hard for a realtor. We want
right.
inspections. I mean, let me correct that. I can't speak for all realtors, but I am a
Right.
realtor and you are a realtor that believes in the inspection
Oh,
process.
yeah,
Okay. We believe in the inspection process. And when a buyer says to us that they want to waive the inspection, it's like, it's
right.
scary, right? You've heard of the money pit, there's movies out there for
Yeah,
that. So these particular clients, they said, Bernadette, what do we need to do? And so I'm telling this, and they said, they're the ones who offered and said to me, we're waiving inspection. And I'm like, oh,
right,
the house did seem solid. Anyway, we don't want to dwell on that. But we offered 360 on a 299, and they did a 60,000. That's a document in. Well, I don't want to give all our secrets away, but they agreed to bring in an additional 60,000 in the event of a low appraisal.
oh,
So we actually got the offer accepted before the seller was even planning on reviewing all of the other offers. So that's one example of what we're seeing. On the other side of it, I'm representing a property on the South Hill. I sold to my clients years ago. Beautiful young family. They just had their first baby. I'm so excited. I actually just came from seeing them. Anyway, the house we listed in the low 400s. That house, multiple offers, and we got up over 500,000. No
wow,
garage. I mean, it's a great house. Don't get me wrong.
right.
Great house. But $500,000 for a house that doesn't even have a garage, Mike.
I know, it's
500,000.
unbelievable.
Yeah. And good for them. I'm
Right,
so excited for them. They're going to have, a little nest egg. They're moving out of area. So I'm hoping someday that they'll return to Spokane. But
yeah,
these are the kinds of things that we're seeing. And so you got to be prepared, but it's not getting any better anytime soon. It just isn't. We're anticipating interest rates possibly being decreased again,
right,
especially if the different states decide to shut down. We're thinking, when I say we, me and our primary lender, we're thinking that they're going to lower interest rates again. And here we are, in this
right.
scenario for a long time.
Yeah, it looks like prices will continue to rise until more inventory gets out there.
Right.
Just wanted to ask you one more question before we wrap it up. Maybe
Mhm.
a little bit off topic, but sort of on topic, if you will. To increase the housing inventory, what do you think needs to be done, Bernadette? You've been in this game a long time, and do we need to build more affordable housing? Do we need more diversity? Do we need more mixed use? I know it's a tough question to answer, but I
Actually,
mean,
you actually covered on quite a few of the items that I think would would provide more housing. Nobody's going to like me when I say that interest rates probably shouldn't be decreased as low as we are
right,
seeing them. I think that that's going to, with the low interest rates, as low as they are and could possibly get to again, that's going to keep us in this position. But I want everybody to hear me when I say that I remember a time when interest rates were 18%, then
yes,
12%. So when you have buyers, especially our, younger buyers,
right,
who are saying, "Oh my God, interest rates going up to 4.5
I know,
or
yeah,
5%." You're like, when we laugh at you, please don't get mad at us
yes.
because, and I'm not old by any means. I'm a
No,
young
we're about,
grandma
yeah,
and everything.
My
but,
first home, it
uh,
was 12%. I remember it was
mhm,
12% interest, and we're like, oh, that's pretty good. And then we got it refinanced to 8, and I thought,
yeah.
oh man, we're really kicking some butt on this. So, but yeah, see the
Yeah, and
interest
I didn't
rates
want
are.
to change the subject of what you asked of me, but when you hear, when you hear of the, when consumers hear me say, perhaps the interest rate shouldn't be so low, please don't get mad at me, because even at 4.5, 5%, even up to 6%, I'm sorry, folks, but even interest rates at that amount are still really good
Yeah.
interest rates when you look at in the scheme of things. So, and I get arguments that say, well, cost of homes is more, but it's
Right.
all relative. So anyway, to increase the marketplace, I think, increase inventory into the marketplace. I believe all of what you said, more affordable housing, multi generational type housing.
Right.
But building, we do still have room to build, and I think that might be the one thing that is being a little bit impeded by by COVID and
Right.
cost to build. So I think all of those, and then more sellers selling, but where are they going to
Yeah.
go?
Yeah. There's
Where
nowhere
are
to
they going
go.
to go?
It's like
Yeah,
selling your car and not having a car dealership to go to. Well,
right.
we've covered a lot of ground in our very first Bernadette Pillar Real Estate podcast. So I think it went pretty well. I mean,
I
what do
hope
you
so.
think?
I hope that everybody enjoys it, and I should
I-
have fun, because you know how much I adore you. So
oh yeah, and
we always have
likewise.
fun together.
All right,
Yeah.
before we let everybody go, let's could you give them the main office number of our main office, our website address, how people can get a hold of us?
Absolutely. So here in Spokane, 509-598-8570 is our main number. You can reach Mike at his number. Mike,
509-850-4748. And you can also email me. My email address is on the screen.
okay, and I am Bernadette Pillar, designated broker, Bernadette Pillar Real Estate Office. And my number directly, if you have any questions, is 509-868-9181.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bernadette. It was great being with you. And thanks for watching and listening. On behalf of Bernadette Pillar Real Estate, I'm Mike Gonzalez saying join us next time for the next Bernadette Pillar Real Estate podcast. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Aloha.